Good morning, everybody. I'm out here today at the location I've been to for the last video as well. But today I'm not concentrating on shooting, actually shooting pictures, but I'm really concentrated on finding compositions for when there's fog around. Because last week there has been a lot of fog, but I haven't had the opportunity to go out at all. So that's what I'm gonna do today, and I'm gonna hope in the upcoming weeks there will be more fog to come. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I chose the Fujifilm camera system that I'm shooting on instead of other camera systems, even though I mostly shoot landscape photography. First of all though, because I am actually also out here to find any compositions for when there's fog. And I just stepped into the forest basically and already found my first composition. It's a forest, but I'm stood by a little stream here, as you can see, and I really like these roots covered in moss with this tree in the background. I'm not sure yet how I will frame that composition up, but I'll try to find a composition now, so when there is fog around I will not have to look for a composition, but will already have one in mind. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so the first reason why I chose the Fujifilm system over other camera systems are the retro dials you have on top of many of their cameras. For example, on the XT line, the X100 line and the X Pro line, you have these retro dials on top. You can change your shutter speed and your ISO on top of the camera, and on a lot of their native lenses you also have the aperture ring, with which you can change the aperture, of course, and that really gives you a good sense of what you're doing in terms of exposure adjustment. And what that has helped me with is when I look at a scene, and because I don't shoot auto or aperture priority, usually I shoot manual, especially in landscape photography, of course, I really have a greater sense of what I have to do with a composition in terms of setting my shutter speed, setting my aperture and so on. The camera I chose personally is the X-T4, and I chose that because of its image stabilization, the weather sealing it has, and honestly its incredible looks. The weather sealing for me is a very important and integral part of landscape photography, because you want to go out whenever there are good conditions to shoot pictures, and that very well may be in the rain, and you have to know that you can trust your camera to not break down, and yeah, that's why the X-T4 is a very good choice for me. And then of course there's the way this camera looks. In my opinion, this X-T4 I have, and a lot of other Fujifilm cameras as well, they're the most beautiful modern cameras there are, and honestly this can and should be a very important factor when buying a camera, even though a lot of people maybe don't think of it, or maybe it's a stupid reason. But for me, the camera gives me a feeling of wanting to go out and create pictures with it. And even though I previously maybe didn't feel like it, I will sometimes, when I look at it, still go out and shoot pictures with it, just for the sake of using this tool. So that's a really important factor for me. Thirdly, there's the price, of course, and for most people like me, and probably a lot of you as well, that don't shoot or photograph professionally, this is a huge factor when buying into a camera system, because you're not just buying the camera, you're also buying the lenses for it. And depending on what camera you're looking for, I think the cameras Fujifilm offers are very equally priced to their competitors like Sony, Canon, Nikon and so on. But what makes the difference for me are the native lenses Fujifilm offers. Because Fujifilm offers a huge range of native lenses, which range I think from 8mm to 600 on the other end. And you have to consider, of course, it's the Fujifilm X system is an APS-C, a cropped sensor camera system, so you have to take the crop sensor into account, which is one 1.53, but let's say 1.5. So the 8 millimeters to 600 millimeters equals to 12 to 900 millimeters full frame equivalent, which can obviously be increased through the teleconverter as well. So Fujifilm, I think they offer 3 different lens lineups. First of all, you have the XC lineup, which is the cheaper lineup. They still have good image quality, but I think the build is just not too good. Then they have the Red Badge lineup, which is of course superb image quality, but unfortunately they also have the according price tag. What makes the difference for me is the normal XF lineup they have though. They have very good quality, very sharp lenses that are also very compact, and from what I've seen so far, these lenses cost less than their counterparts from other competitors. Alright, reasonable phono I think. The X-T4 and the X-T5, I think most people compare them to full frame cameras, even though the X system isn't full frame, it's a crop sensor camera system. And I was a bit worried at first because of the smaller sensor size and the somewhat lower megapixel count of I think 26 megapixels. I was worried if my images would still be sharp enough and if my images would look good if I print them to hang on my walls, and I have to say this worry has completely evaporated after shooting and printing my first images. They, in my opinion, look very good. And of course if you shoot billboards or whatever, this won't be the camera for you, but I think for most people this megapixel count will be enough. I have to say that the largest image I've printed so far is 60 by 40 centimeters, but I am pretty sure that even if I'd go a step further and print 75 to 50 centimeters, I think, the camera would still be sufficient. Okay, a bit further away, so I have to talk a bit louder. I found the next composition, and it's this tree right here. I think it's still alive. It hangs over this little stream, and there's moss on it. It's covered in moss, and there's ivy hanging off of it. I think it looks really pretty. Like this, because of the background, I wouldn't recommend shooting this picture like this, but I'm pretty sure I will come back and try to shoot this picture when there is a little more fog, actually way more fog, because the background is quite close to it and I really don't want the background in there. Yeah, I think because of obviously there's from the ivy there's a lot of glare, and also from the water in the stream there's a lot of glare. I would put a circular polarizing filter on, but I think this image could look very good in foggy conditions. Last but not least, a very important factor for me when choosing a camera system was that I wanted to do landscape photography with it, but also travel photography. And I know both of these things you can do with basically any camera that's out there, but the X-T4 paired with one of Fujifilm's smaller prime lenses, it's a very sleek look to it. It's a small form factor and therefore it just attracts less attention, and therefore I think makes for a great travel camera. Alright, beyond the point of travel photography, there's one more thing that I love about the Fujifilm camera system, and that's the film simulations Fujifilm offers. Because honestly, I don't love editing. It can be fun sometimes, but usually only when I edit pictures that I know I want to print, and those images are usually not travel pictures but landscape pictures. So what I do with my travel pictures is I usually don't bother editing them at all, and I just use the film simulations Fujifilm offers. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, I think those images look beautiful straight out of camera, so I'll just use the JPEG straight out of camera and yeah, post that on social media or whatever. So, these are my 5 reasons why I chose the Fujifilm X system to be my camera system of choice. And I use it for about 1.5 years now, and I honestly couldn't be happy with it. I'm very, very glad I chose this. And yeah, you may have completely different reasons than I do, and I'd really appreciate it if you'd go in the comments down below and tell me what camera system you use and why that is the case. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd give me a thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. It really helps out. Anyway, that's it from me for today. Have a good one. Bye bye.